Good evening. My name is Admiral Paris, and this is Barbara Strategy. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the inaugural speech, the second inaugural speech that Donald Trump gave. Here's my bobblehead of Donald Trump. This is made by Royal Baubles, very good company. And this is what I use for the thumbnails, usually, these little fellows. Very, very good company. Anyway, I wanted to go over this speech because, and I'm looking at my screen because I've got all of my notes here, but I wanted to go over this speech because it has a lot in there. It has a great deal of information in it. Anybody who stopped and listened to it, any inaugural speech has really essentially the aims and goals of that administration, if you listen to all of them. Going all the way back to the very beginning of time. The one thing I will say about Donald Trump's speech that I'm disappointed, and I want to get this out of the way up front, the disappointment that I have is he doesn't read well. I don't know who is it that suggests that he read the teleprompter, but he reads like this, and it's without any emotion. When he gets up and does a rally, and he doesn't have anything, and I've been to a couple of his rallies, and I sat behind him, and I could see what was there on the podium back a few years ago when he did his rally. He'd have just basically some cue cards, and it would have written on it just one or two lines, just the topic that he wanted to talk about, and he would get up and he would just, well, we've seen him, he would just go to town, and he is great at ad lib. Unlike Obama, who was really good with a teleprompter, but he sucked on his own. The man could not speak on his own. He had to have a teleprompter. Donald Trump is the opposite. He has a teleprompter, and I guess they have whipped him until he will obey and just read the teleprompter. And you can always tell, like in the pep rallies that he does, when he's reading from the teleprompter, and then when he breaks off from that and becomes Donald Trump, the guy that we love. But the speech itself that he gave in his inaugural address was really, really good. But the way he delivered it was almost to the point where it wanted to put you to sleep. He said it with almost no emotion, and he went through it so slowly. Now, what I've done is I've recorded a lot of that after we get past a few lines here. I didn't start doing it until about fourth of the way in, and so I'll play some of that. But I'm gonna speed his part up a little bit because I don't want this to take forever. Also, this video or this show is probably going to be, I don't know, 2 or 3 parts. I don't know what it's going to be at this point because I have to record it to find out. But definitely, probably more than one part because there's a lot here and I want to go over it. Okay, first off, right off the bat, what he does is he comes out and says he's putting the world on notice, that the golden age of America is beginning. And this is a really great thing. This is a massive way to start out the administration. This is a new age. And I know every administration comes out and says, oh, we're the new age, this is a new age, whatever. But there are distinct areas in history that we can look back on and say, yes, this is a turning point, such as Kennedy's speech in 1960, when he talked about all of the great things yet to come in the 1960s and with his presidency. And he gave one of the finest inaugural speeches, and it's been played over and over. But Kennedy, that was a real turning point. As opposed to, how many people remember Johnson's inaugural speech in 1965 when he took office, legitimately after he had inherited it from Kennedy? Nobody, really. I mean, maybe pro-Johnson people, but pretty much nobody remembers that. Reagan's speech in 1980, fantastic. Or I'm sorry, 81 when he was inaugurated. But this speech, I think that it's actually better, not necessarily delivered better, but the words are better than what was delivered in 2016 after when he took office in 2017. So, and who remembers Biden's speech from? I mean, I'd have to go back to YouTube. I don't even remember it. I think I saw pieces of it. But anyway, So he starts off talking about the golden age of America begins, and that's a very important part. And then he goes right into talking about the fact that America from here on forth, or the marquee of that golden age, is going to be that America is going to be put itself first. And part of the reason this is going to be controversial is because it goes against the ideals of, I think, what a lot of people have grown up with. The Americanism is that America is somehow this country that is the guardian of all, and that we don't put ourselves first, and we don't invade, and we don't take territory, which I don't agree with that at all. But I mean, I'm well aware that a lot of people, most people think that way because that's the way we have been trained to think since the end of World War II. Real quick, the way I see history is that we were a republic from our founding after the American Revolution all the way up until Fort Sumter was resupplied by that son of a bitch Lincoln. I hate Lincoln. Anybody asks me who is the worst president we ever had, it was that Abraham Lincoln. That son of a bitch should have been shot in 1861 instead of 1865. Booth could have done a lot of favors for us if he'd shot him in 1861, because then it could have saved about 750 American boys' lives, both Southern and Yankee. But the bottom line here is that we stopped being a republic when the Civil War occurred. And then from the Civil War up until, or the War of Northern Aggression is what we ought to call it, all the way up until the 1898, that period was a period of we were reinventing ourselves. And in 1898, we launched into empire with the Spanish-American War, when it's my opinion, we blew up our own battleship, the Maine, and then blamed it on the Spanish, and then caused the Spanish-American War. And we launched ourselves into empire, into growth, into taking territory. We were fulfilling our manifest destiny. Now, I agree with being an empire. I agree with being a republic, and I agree with being an empire. But whatever you're going to be, then be that. So if you're going to be the empire, then be the empire. But the problem is that when Woodrow Wilson got in, and then after World War I was, which we should never have fought World War I, but we did World War I, and then we did World War II. Shouldn't have had to do that either. But then by the end of World War II, we became the quasi-empire. Sort of republic, sort of empire, and then the media constantly says, oh, we're a democracy. We're not a democracy. God, we don't want to be a democracy. You do not want the masses making decisions for us. All this idea of get out the vote and people should go vote. No. I always say, if you don't know who you're voting for, if you don't know what the platform is, please stay home. Don't vote. Anyway, so that kind of brings us up to date on the ideals of history. And why this is important is because what Trump is saying in this is that from here on out, or at least during his administration, we're going to put the United States first. We need to put the United States first. For a long time, and this is part of the Americanism, that's why I talked about from the end of World War II to now, it's always been the idea is that, we always do the right thing. We bail other countries out, we give foreign aid, we do all these things for everybody else, thinking that, if we're just a good neighbor, then we will produce good neighbors. We'll set an example for the world. That is crap. That is such bullshit, okay? I don't agree with that at all. I believe that America should either be a republic, and there are certain stipulations that fall under being a republic, or it should be the empire. And I can fully back either one. I pick republic over empire, but I will take empire. But if you're going to be the empire, then be the empire. None of this pussyfooting around like we've done over the last, since the end of World War II, off and on, being an empire, not being an empire. Donald Trump is going to put the United States first, and that's what his first statement is. I've got his speech up here on the screen. That's what his first statement is, that he's going to put the world on notice, and he says the United States will be the first in line of what we will do. So this is going to be controversial because people say, "Oh, well, this is an American." Well, yes, it is. It should be American. If we care about our country, if we have any kind of pride, if you want to build any kind of national patriotism, then you have to build it around the ideals of doing for your country and not for all these other countries. Other countries, in my opinion, they're all enemies. And you have two types of enemies. You have the type that you have enemies that you trade with, and you have enemies that you're at war with. But they're all enemies. I don't think that we should have any allies. All of them are enemies. He goes on to say that we now have a government that cannot be managed even in simple tasks. And that he says that this is the challenging question of trust in government. And this is why we don't trust our government, because they're either corrupt. Most of the time they're corrupt. Most of our politicians, 98% of our politicians are bought and paid for by the corporations. We all know that. By the lobbyists, by the big banks. And either that or they're inept because they're so big. The bureaucracy is so big. And we'll get to the part where he talks about Doge, and I've got a few things to say about that, so I don't want to skip ahead. But this is the biggest problem. We do not trust our government. We have things that have occurred, catalysts that have caused wars for the most part. And we're given this dog and pony show. Oh, Oswald killed Kennedy, and it's everything. And then this last shooter that shot at Trump, that he's supposed to be some lone nut. We're supposed to buy that garbage. See, the thing is, we've gone down this road so many times before that the American public, especially with the media the way it is, I'm not talking about the mass media, I'm talking about the media that we can now go online and we can watch all these historical events. Those who want to know more about history can go online and watch these things, and they can, and you have a freedom of alternate press that's able to put out the conspiracy theories. But the conspiracy theories they're not nut theories. They're actual viable theories that go against the message that's been sent us by the mass media. So we don't trust our government. We don't trust our politicians. And I think what Trump is trying to do is to restore at least some, or as much as he can, that trust we have in government. And the first thing you have to do is put our country first. And then the second thing you have to do is you have to defeat this division that happens within our country all the time. Divided between left and right and white and black and male and female and all of this stuff. And he gets to the root of all of this in his speech. He pointed out the fact that we're too busy supporting the borders of other countries and not our own. And this is something that it was a huge part of the election. I say that the biggest part of the election was the economy. And that is the slow, cancerous eating away of inflation on the economy. But the number two concern is our open borders. And all of these foreigners, they're flooding in, these illegal aliens that are flooding in. And of course, if you say anything about it, they say, oh, well, you're a racist. You know what? Yes, we are racist. Everybody is a racist, in my opinion. I am a racist. You're a racist. Everybody's racist. And you're either too ignorant to realize that you're a racist, or you're just a liar. One of the two. People who say they're not a racist. People are for their own kind. They're for their own tribe. We are tribalistic. What he's saying is that we need to put our borders first instead of worrying about Ukraine's borders or Israel's borders or any of these other borders. We need to be concerned about our borders and keeping illegal aliens out of our country. We don't want them. Now, where I differ with Trump, and I'm going to say this real quick, even though I don't think he addresses it later on. But Trump and the Republicans, they like the idea of bringing in legal foreigners. I'm against bringing in anybody. I don't want to bring anyone in. I don't want to bring in them. I don't want them coming in illegally. I don't want them coming in legally. We don't need any more people, because it's very simple. When you bring in people from other countries, then they compete for jobs. That means that wages and salaries come down. That means your standard of living it comes down, but it erodes the middle class. No. And then a lot of Republicans, I've heard a lot of Republicans, they say, oh, well, but Americans won't work. Yes, Americans will work. Americans will work. Americans want to be paid. You have to pay them, though. Foreigners will come in here and, yeah, they'll work. They'll work really hard. They'll work long hours, and they'll do it cheaper because they don't require you to pay them because they're trying to get the hell out of whatever dirt hole, crap hole they're coming out of. Okay? Of course they're going to be willing to work for less. But we need, as Americans, we need to be against any kind of immigration at all. This is a country of immigrants. Every country is a country of immigrants. Every single nation, if you go back thousands of years, somebody came from someplace else. Big deal. Who cares? My name is Paris. We got here in 1660. We've been here for 350 years. So, don't tell me I'm an immigrant, okay? I've been here for 350 years. Anyway,